In this video, I want to talk about luck. Now, there's good luck and bad luck of all different magnitudes. And as far as luck is concerned, it's something that can constrain certain people and restrict them. And for other people, it is something that allows them to blossom. And I think luck is something that you can really use to your advantage if you have the right perspective and attitude. Or for some people, you can let it control you and restrain you and make you do nothing and demotivate you. So I personally believe, unlike other people, that there are individuals who get really lucky in life. And I've seen it firsthand. People who luck out because they inherited a ton of money, millions of dollars. Or they got lucky just because they were born really physically attractive, they were really pretty, and they were born into a moderately middle class family, and then they just had a really good life, and they had great friends, and then they had like a great job immediately out of school, and their whole life was just this constant stream of good fortune. And since they were so pretty, they got extra connections that other people didn't. Heck, some of them might even get modeling gigs, and their whole life seems to have been this perfect journey. At least that's what it seems. So here's where attitude, perspective, and bad luck comes into play. You know, I have experienced this myself. I'm sure maybe you've at least heard of this, but bad luck or being worse off actually can be very helpful in a lot of ways. For instance, if you have the right perspective, that's huge too. You can turn a bad situation into something better off. You know, having no money or very little money, that is what can motivate you. I have this book, The Power of Broke, on that topic. That can motivate you to do exactly that. Push harder, work 10 times harder than anyone else. And in the long run, develop character qualities like work ethic, focus, integrity, doing good, and practicing and working harder than anyone else. That could probably have never been developed otherwise. Because if you don't have a strong enough motivation, which is sometimes very difficult to do if you're not interested in a topic, or if things were handed to you throughout life, it's not a strong enough motivation to get things done, and you don't do it. And another great example of this is just the fact that, you know, sometimes good enough destroys you in certain ways. Good enough makes you never not push that hard. If you have a job or a girlfriend or someone, you know, friends that are good enough, such as people that, you know, they're kind enough to you, but technically they're very physically and psychologically abusive to you, but you tolerate that because they're good enough. It's good enough to the point where it never pushes you to strive for more. And I would say there's multiple elements of my life that have pointed to this, not so much as other people. I mean, if you read some stories from billionaires and successful people in the dating sphere or wherever else, a lot of them were pushed there because they were not even close to good enough. They were doing really bad. They were broke. They had no money. They did poorly with friends, with girls. They were bad, horrible social speakers, public speakers, and that pushed them to succeed further. And if it wasn't for that, they would not have succeeded as much as they could have. So, long story short, that pain could in the long run be better for you because it pushes you to even greater success than those people who may have just lucked out in life early on, whether it means they inherited money or, and so forth. Now, if you are those people who inherited money, that doesn't mean, of course, that you're screwed either. It just means that you can't get complacent or cocky. You still have to work hard to overcome that. So keep those things in mind. And then the last thing is just that as far as disadvantages and bad luck goes, sometimes those things again can push you to learn more about things that you wouldn't have otherwise. Style and fashion is another example that I'm getting into lately. I've had really bad fashion and so forth, and now I'm starting to learn a ton about fashion and grooming and style, and I would have probably maybe never done that if I was good enough in that department. And if I was moderately good enough in that department to pass by, which in my past has been far from the case. I've been below average. So keep those things in mind when people say good enough and bad enough. And remember that attitude and perspective is really important. There's this story, and it's in this book called 6 Months to Six Figures. There's no citing or sources, so the author could have literally just made it up or heard it from someone who made it up. But nonetheless, it's a great story to illustrate this point. So, what's the story? Basically, there's this father, and he had two sons. And he was a single father, and times were really tough. So one day he decided to go to a store and rob the store to get money because times were very tough. He ended up killing a mother of three and the store owner, and he got sentenced to jail for life. Now, the two sons went on to live their own lives without any parents at foster homes. Decades later, one son became a very successful, happy businessman living his life. The other son was constantly addicted to alcohol, in and out of jail. Now, one of the researchers observed this and wanted to see what made one son successful while the other was not. And he asked these two people the same question, how did you do it? And he said, and they both said the same thing. With a father like mine, how could anything else have been possible? You see, they had the same exact experience, but one person chose to look at it in a different way. It's kind of like that old thing, the glass is half full or half empty. One son chose to look at that and use it to grow, while the other used it to decay. You can be that guy who's mad or pissed off at that guy on Instagram or that girl on Instagram who has it all, and use that as an excuse to not do anything, be lazy, sit on the couch, blame others. Or you can use that to motivate yourself to grow, to succeed, and to do greater things that's possible. And I personally think that social comparison and any type of dwelling is very unhealthy. There's a lot of science behind that, and if need be, you should either unsubscribe from Instagram feeds and Facebook feeds that show that, because for whatever reason, females and people tend to love to show off the highlights of their life, even if that's not really their true life, and you start comparing yourself to that and getting very unhappy. So there's a ton of science behind this. And if you can't get off those social media platforms completely, at least consider only following the people who do things like just give inspirational quotes, rather than people showing off their lives, which in turn triggers a lot of negative psychological tendencies in your own brain, comparison, unhappiness, and so forth. So avoid that and you'll be better off. And of course, remember also that not everyone's life is as perfect or awesome as it seems, and just keep in mind that what they show the world may be different from what's behind the curtains. That's not always the case. Some people are living the life of their dreams, and I prefer using that as motivation to show that it's possible, as well as applaud them and cheer them on because they've done it, and maybe you can too. And for you and me, maybe it's a much tougher road because we're not as handsome or good looking or connected or any of that, but it may motivate us to greater ends in the long run anyway. And I definitely think that is the case on numerous fronts. If your back is against the wall and you need that money, or you want to do great things and it's tougher, It's going to motivate you to work harder, talk to more people, form more connections, go the extra mile. And other people, they won't have that motivation because they're in a state of complacency. Thanks for watching again. Of course, as I say this, I definitely have to work on all of it myself because I'm not that good at it, to be honest. And so we all need to work on this. Let's do it together. And that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching, and keep those things in mind the next time you see someone who seems to have lucked out in life.